Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Fi Mastery Podcast, where our focus is on providing tools, resources, and insights that empower driven individuals to secure their own path to financial independence. My name is Peter Donisanu, and today we're going to talk about trusts. More specifically, we'll be discussing when it might make sense to set up a trust for you and your family. Now, when it comes down to it, estate planning and trust can seem like tools that are only applicable to the ultra-affluent. The truth is, however, that estate planning, and more specifically, setting up a trust, can be beneficial if you're concerned about providing financially for your minor children, should you and your partner pass unexpectedly, and they also offer other added benefits, like privacy in certain situations, and they can also help you simplify the management of your assets in complex situations. Either way, whether you're familiar with the topic of trust or just getting started, today's discussion should give you a basic understanding of the when, where, and how as you consider using this useful estate planning tool. So with that, let's dive into today's podcast. Asset protection. Securely transferring wealth and keeping your family finances on track no matter what life throws at you. Who doesn't want that, right? Well, these outcomes were top of mind for Craig, a devoted husband and father of two, and a tech professional. Now, having built a successful career and arriving at a solid place in life financially, Craig grew increasingly concerned about his family's financial stability. That's because Craig had earned a lot in his career and wanted to ensure that his family could manage it all if he passed away unexpectedly. And so Craig did some digging online and found a way to handle his money even if he wasn't around. In fact, he learned that the estate planning technique of using a trust is when somebody takes care of your money and gives it to others according to your own established rules. What's more, Craig learned that trusts are a valuable way to safeguard his family's finances, maintain their privacy, and simply make it easier to manage his estate. Now, after conducting some further research and consulting with a trusted advisor, Craig decided to create a trust. And now, this decision marked the beginning of his journey towards being a financial expert and reinforced his commitment as a responsible family man. Indeed, a trust can be a powerful expression of love for your family's future and help guide them to make wise choices with the wealth that you've accumulated, no matter what life throws at you or your family. So then, what is a trust? Well, now, when you think of a trust, you might think of it as some foreign legalese that has nothing to do with your life situation. But the fact is that you couldn't be further from the truth. And how so? Well, imagine for a moment that you have some valued possessions or some money that you want to keep safe for the future, like prize collections, financial investments, or investment properties. And so you want to make sure that these things go to the right people or causes when you're no longer around, right? Well, that's where a trust comes in. You see, a trust is like a special container that keeps all of your assets safe. Now, a trust is created by a legal document called a trust agreement. And so when you set up a trust, you become the grantor or the trustor because you're the one who's creating it and calling the shots. Indeed, the trust agreement outlines how the trust should be managed and who should benefit from the trust that you're setting up. Now, with a trust, you appoint someone called a trustee who will manage the assets in the trust. And depending on how you're setting up the trust, you can be the trustee of the trust and manage its affairs, or have someone else manage it on your behalf. Now, with that said, you should take some time to carefully think about someone who can serve as a trustee when you're not around, like a responsible friend or family member. That way, you can ensure that everything is taken care of according to your wishes when you're not around. And why is this important? Well, it's important because the trustee's job is to follow the rules that you've set out in this trust agreement. And so you've got to find someone who's willing to do what you ask them to do. Now, it's also crucial to note that a trust also has beneficiaries. Now, a beneficiary can be a person or an organization that will receive the assets from your trust at some point in the future. Here, beneficiaries can be family members or friends or even charitable organizations. So then from a planning perspective, you get to decide who will benefit from your trust and when they will receive your assets. And here again, the key benefit of trust is that they can function long after you've passed away. So then if you want to ensure that your assets are managed and distributed in a certain way for a long time, then a trust can help you achieve that. Now, it's essential to note that there are different types of trusts out there, and one common type is called a revocable living trust. And so why is it called revocable? Well, some trusts are called revocable because you can change or cancel it at any point that you're alive. In fact, the living part means it's created while you're alive, which allows you to transfer your assets into the trust so that they can be protected and distributed per your instructions. And then when you pass, these trusts become irrevocable, meaning they typically can't be changed. But the real question here is is a trust right for you? Well, while there are various reasons why an individual may want to set up a trust, let's take a look at a few reasons you may want to consider one. Now, when considering financial and legacy planning, setting up a trust often comes to mind as one of the most effective strategies for passing along the wealth you have from one generation to the next. But one of the key benefits of establishing a trust in the present is that it can provide for your loved ones should you become incapacitated. And so what specifically are we talking about here? Well, what we're talking about here is incapacity planning. That is, if the well-being of your children or your dependents keeps you up at night as you're worried about how they'll all be taken care of should you pass away unexpectedly, then a trust can provide you with the peace of mind that you need. Indeed, the functionality of a trust can serve as a dependable shield against the uncertainties of incapacity. You can think of it this way. If an unfortunate event renders you incapable of managing your affairs, then the trust enters the scene as a protective mechanism. Here then, the trustee who you've previously designated would assume responsibility for managing the trust and the trust assets on your behalf. Now, this approach ensures that your financial matters are managed per your wishes and circumvents the potential cumbersome process of having a court-appointed guardian or conservator manage your family finances and make sure that your kids are taken care of financially. At the same time, a trust comes with some added benefits or flexibility. That's because this tool enables you to set up explicit instructions regarding the distribution of your assets, including whether you want assets dispersed when your children reach a certain age or upon their achieving certain milestones. Either way, the choice is yours. But the takeaway here is that it empowers you with greater control over the timing and the purpose of asset transfers and puts the reins of your family legacy straight in your hands. Now, one thing you may be thinking to yourself is, how does beneficiary protection actually fit into the setup? Well, here again is how a trust proves its worth. That's because a trust can offer a viable solution if you're worried about securing your minor children's inheritance. And that's because a trust allows the inheritance to be managed responsibly by a responsible trustee until your children reach their given age of majority or the milestone that you define within the trust agreement. What's more, for beneficiaries with special needs, a trust can ensure that your loved ones are taken care of for as long as they need without jeopardizing their eligibility for government benefits. Now, make no mistake, a trust is an essential tool for contingency planning, but it's also worth noting that a trust is one of many tools at your disposal when it comes to incapacity planning. And here, it's crucial to note that there are some simpler alternatives out there that may prove sufficient depending on your circumstances. So as you go about considering a trust, think first if there's an easier way to achieve what you're trying to achieve with your money. All right, now, as we discussed before, there are various motivations behind creating a trust. And another one that you may want to consider is the ability to avoid probate, which ensures your privacy and confidentiality when you pass. And so how does this work? Well, a trust often brings with it an added layer of privacy and confidentiality that you may not get with a will, because when you pass away, your will undergoes probate, which is a legal process, which in some cases becomes public record. And this means that your financial details and the identities of your beneficiaries, which in most cases you want to keep confidential, could otherwise become widely known. So then here in this situation, a trust allows you to sidestep this public process, thus allowing sensitive information about your assets and beneficiaries to be kept private. Now, with all that said, it's essential to understand that setting up a trust for the benefit of avoiding probate may not always pay off in the long run because, well, for some individuals, probate may not be that big of a deal. In fact, privacy concerns amidst the probate process really will depend on one jurisdiction to the next. And in some parts of the country, the probate process is considered relatively efficient and inexpensive, and some individuals may just be okay with their assets going through probate. And so here, while we can't overlook the advantage of privacy and confidentiality that trusts provide, it's also essential to be aware of the potential limitations. For example, trusts, despite their privacy attributes, are not completely shielded from scrutiny. That's because under certain circumstances, such as legal challenges or disputes or specific court proceedings, the details of a trust may have to be revealed or become subject to investigation. Consequently, these situations can erode the privacy advantages of setting up a trust and may be something to consider as you move forward. Now, a final reason you may want to consider setting up a trust is in situations where you deal with complex financial matters and aren't worried about the intricacies that come with trust management. Now, remember, while they're efficient, trusts can be complex tools that demand extra time and attention on your part. And yet, with all that said, one of the fundamental benefits of establishing a trust is the potential to simplify the management of your assets. And so how does this work? Well, here again, a trust acts as a hub for all of your assets, which enables a trustee of your choosing, including you, to manage them on your behalf. Now, this setup is especially useful if your estate includes multiple properties, diverse investments, or other valuable assets. To be sure, a trust neatly pulls together its management under a single entity, making the oversight of your assets less daunting. What's more, on top of centralized management, trusts open the door for professional asset management. So then if the thought of relinquishing day-to-day control of your assets doesn't bother you, but you appreciate the benefits of expert oversight, then establishing a trust may be the right move for you. And by appointing a professional trustee, like a bank or a trust company, you can count on them to handle the daily management of your estate, making informed decisions on your behalf and maintaining accurate records of your assets. In essence, this means that the demanding task of managing your assets, should you have a complex financial situation, could become a thing of the past. Now, if you have a simple estate, you may not need to worry about this kind of complex asset management. However, professional management becomes even more crucial when dealing with complicated or diverse assets. For instance, if you have a business or properties in different cities or investments in various financial instruments, a trust then can greatly simplify the management of all of these various assets. Here again, with all that said, it's crucial to keep in mind that establishing and maintaining a trust is not a responsibility to be taken lightly. Here again, the process can be rather complex and often involves more work than simply just creating a will-based estate plan. To be sure, in situations like these, legal assistance is typically required to set up a trust, and you'll also have to deal with ongoing administrative tasks that come along with it, plus the potential for trustee fees. So then if you have a straightforward estate with minimal assets, then a will-based plan may be a simpler, more cost-effective solution for you going forward. Now, make no mistake, navigating the landscape of estate planning can seem like a challenging task, but when it comes down to it, it can be one of the most vital decisions you ever make. Indeed, the decision to set up a trust is a journey that requires careful consideration, as it can significantly shape the financial stability and legacy planning for your loved ones. To be sure, trusts offer compelling benefits such as planning for your incapacity, preserving your privacy, and simplifying complex asset management. And just like in Cray's case, a trust provided him the comfort and security he needed, reassuring him that his family's finances were secure no matter what happened to him. Indeed, as a testament to this, trust can serve as the ultimate expression of love and care for your family's future. Now, with all of that said, it's equally crucial to note that the utility and necessity of a trust can vary greatly depending on your personal circumstances. To be sure, while they can be effective tools to bypass probate or protect your privacy and handle complex asset management, setting up a trust can also bring its own set of complexities and costs. That's why a trust may not always be the ideal solution for everyone, especially if you have a simple estate or if the thought of entrusting someone else with your assets is discomforting to you. Here, ultimately, the question of is a trust right for you is deeply personal and dependent upon various factors. Even so, with the right guidance and thorough consideration, you can confidently make informed decisions that safeguard your family's financial stability now and into the future. Indeed, under the right circumstances, a trust can help you protect your family, leave a legacy, and help you take one step closer to becoming the master of your own financial independence journey. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the FI Mastery podcast. To learn more about our research, visit us at FIMastery.com or email your questions to questions@franklinmadisonadvisors.com. Until next time, I'm Peter Donisanu, wishing you and yours abundant health and prosperity.
FI Mastery Podcast is brought to you by Franklin Madison Advisors, Inc. Franklin Madison Advisors is a registered investment advisor firm with its registration and principal place of business in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Registration of an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skills or training. This commentary and forecasts are limited to the dissemination of general information pertaining to Franklin Madison Advisors' investment advisory services and general economic and market conditions, and are subject to change without notice. The information shared today is not intended to be personal, legal, investment, or tax advice, or a solicitation to buy or sell any security or engage in a particular investment strategy. For additional information about Franklin Madison Advisors, including fees and services, please contact Franklin Madison Advisors or refer to the Investment Advisor public disclosures.